The Vorthak Empire ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. They were huge creatures 8 feet tall with hard shells and sharp claws. Their red eyes had seen the fall of 700 star systems. Their jaws clicked with joy when they turned worlds into dust. Commander Zexathara stood on his warship called Death's Edge. He looked out the window at their next target. The third planet around a yellow star showed signs of basic technology. The report said the people there called themselves humans. They had just learned to split atoms. This would be easy work. "Start the bombing," Zexathara said. His voice was rough and scary. It made his soldiers shake. The Vorthak were masters of fear. Every race they met either ran away, begged for mercy, or hid in terror. Fear was their best weapon. They used it like a sharp knife. The first energy blasts hit human cities. New York burned. London turned to ash. Tokyo became a crater. Moscow disappeared in fire. Zexathara waited for what always happened next. He waited for the surrender messages. He waited for the begging. He waited for the sweet sound of another race giving up. But something new happened. The humans fought back. They did not have better weapons. They did not have more ships. But they had something the Vorthak had never seen before. The humans showed no fear. Even worse, they showed anger. Pure rage that burned hotter than their burning cities. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of Earth's last warship, the Defiance. He watched his world burn through the window. His face was hard. His blue eyes showed no fear, only cold anger. Next to him, Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez worked on the weapons. Her hands were steady even as their world died around them. "Sir, we have reports from the ground," Rodriguez said. Her voice was calm even though everything was falling apart. "The people who lived are not running away. They are making fighting groups." Morrison nodded. The Vorthak had made a big mistake. They thought all races would be afraid. They had never met a race that answered death with anger instead of fear. Down on Earth, the real war was just starting. In the ruins of Chicago, a man named Rick Barnes crawled through broken buildings. He had been a construction worker before the aliens came. Now he was something else. Behind him, 11 other humans followed. They moved like ghosts through the smoke and fire. Barnes had lost his wife in the first attack. He had watched his apartment building melt. He had seen his neighbors die. But he did not cry. He did not run. He got angry. And when humans get angry, they do not just fight. They learn. "Look at these ugly bugs," Barnes said to his team. "They think we will run away like scared animals. They do not know humans very well." The Vorthak soldiers walked through the dead city in groups of 3. They had done this 1,000 times before. Walk through the ruins, find the survivors, kill them, listen to them scream. It was always the same, but Chicago was different. The humans here did not scream. They watched. They waited. They learned how the aliens moved. They saw when the aliens were strong and when they were weak. They started to plan. Dr. Lisa Wong worked in a hidden lab under the city. Before the attack, she studied animal behavior. Now she studied something new. She studied fear, not human fear, but alien fear. She wanted to know if the Vorthak could be scared. "Every animal can feel fear," she told her helper, Dr. Kevin Davis. "The Vorthak are animals too. They just forgot what fear feels like. We need to remind them." The Vorthak had ruled by being the scariest thing in space. They were bigger than most races. They were stronger. They looked like nightmares. But they had never fought humans before. They did not know that humans were different. They did not know that when humans see monsters, they do not just run. They learn how to become monsters too. In space, Captain Morrison watched more Vorthak ships arrive. The aliens expected easy work. They expected crying and begging. They expected to add another dead world to their collection. Instead, they found something they had never seen before. They found humans who smiled when they fought. They found humans who got calmer when things got worse. They found humans who looked at their burning world and started making plans for revenge. Morrison opened a communication line to all human forces. "Listen up," he said. They came here thinking we would be afraid. They thought we would give up. They do not understand humans. When someone hurts our family, we do not get scared. We get even. All across Earth, humans were learning the same lesson. In London, a teacher named Emma Clark taught children to hide in sewers and fight back. In Tokyo, a businessman named Hiro Tanaka used his knowledge of the city to set traps. In Moscow, a soldier named Alexei Petrov gathered other soldiers to start a new kind of war. The Vorthak had brought fear to Earth. But humans were about to teach them something new. They were about to learn what real terror looked like. They were about to discover that the scariest monster in the galaxy was not an 8-foot alien with claws. It was a human, with nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. The Vorthak thought they knew about fear. They were wrong. They were about to get an education from the best teachers in the galaxy. They were about to learn from humans. 3 months passed after the first attack. The Vorthak soldiers on Earth started reporting strange things. Their patrol ships went missing. No emergency calls, no sign of fighting. The ships just disappeared. Supply ships were found floating, empty in space. The crews were gone. No bodies, no blood. Just empty ships. But the worst thing was the videos. Human fighters sent recordings to Vorthak command centers. The videos showed humans moving through the ruins of their cities. Their faces were painted with ash and blood. Their eyes looked different now. They looked like hunters. Even the Vorthak warriors felt uncomfortable watching these videos. Sergeant Rick Barnes led his team through the old subway tunnels under Chicago. 12 humans followed him in complete silence. They moved like shadows. They had nothing left to lose. The aliens had taken everything. Now the humans were taking something back. Barnes had learned to think like the enemy. He watched how they moved. He saw how they acted. He found their weak spots. The Vorthak were hunters, but they expected their prey to run away. Humans did not run anymore. Listen, Barnes whispered to his team before they attacked another alien patrol. These bugs think they are the only real hunters in the galaxy. Time to show them they are wrong. The humans had been busy studying their enemy. The Vorthak were strong and scary, but they had one big problem. They expected fear. When the Vorthak came to a world, people screamed, people ran, people begged for mercy. But humans did something different now. Where the aliens expected screams, they found silence. Where they expected people hiding, they found traps. Where they expected begging, they found humans who smiled in the dark. Dr. Lisa Wong worked in her secret lab under the dead city of San Francisco. She was building new weapons. But these were not normal weapons. These weapons were made to hurt the mind, not the body. She had learned something important about the Vorthak. Their greatest strength was also their greatest weakness. We cannot beat them with better guns, she told her helper, Dr. Kevin Davis. But we can beat them with something they have never felt before. We can teach them to be afraid. Wong had found out that the Vorthak had never been scared. For 3,000 years, they were always the scariest thing around. They did not know how to handle fear. They had no defense against it. The humans were going to change that. Back on the alien warship Death's Edge, Commander Zexathera was feeling something new, something he did not understand. Doubt. His soldiers, the most feared warriors in the galaxy, were getting sick. They could not sleep. They jumped at shadows. They could not focus on their work. Some soldiers said they saw human faces in the dark, watching them, waiting for them. The humans were not hiding anymore. They were hunting. Dr. Wong's weapons were not like anything the galaxy had seen before. She made devices that played sounds only the Vorthak could hear, sounds that made them nervous. She created smells that reminded them of death. She built things that made the aliens feel like something was always watching them. In New York, a group led by Maria Santos had turned the subway system into a maze of traps. The Vorthak would enter looking for humans to kill. But the tunnels had been changed. Signs pointed the wrong way. Sounds came from empty rooms. Shadows moved when nothing was there. The aliens would come out hours later, shaking and confused. In London, a former police officer named David Brown taught other humans to be invisible. Not really invisible, but close enough. They learned to move without making sound. They learned to hide in places the aliens would never look. They learned to appear and disappear like ghosts. The Vorthak soldiers started to change. They moved in bigger groups now. They checked empty rooms twice. They jumped when they heard unexpected sounds. The humans were teaching them something new. They were teaching them fear. Captain Morrison watched all this from space. The human resistance was growing stronger every day. But they were also becoming something different. The humans were learning to enjoy the hunt. They were learning to smile when their enemies suffered. They were becoming what they needed to become to win. "We are not the same people we were 3 months ago," Morrison told his crew. "The aliens came here to make us afraid. Instead, they made us angry. Now they are learning what human anger looks like." On Vorthak Prime, the alien homeworld, the High Command was getting worried reports. Their soldiers on Earth were asking to leave. Some were refusing to go on patrol. Others were having nightmares about humans with painted faces and cold smiles. The Vorthak had ruled the galaxy by being the scariest monsters around, but now they were learning that humans could be monsters too. And human monsters were different. They were patient. They were smart. They were creative. Most importantly, they enjoyed their work. The galaxy's apex predators were about to discover they were not alone at the top anymore. The humans were coming for them. And humans, unlike the Vorthak, had learned to hunt not just with claws and teeth. They had learned to hunt with their minds. 6 months had passed since the aliens came to Earth. Everything had changed. The Vorthak, who had never known fear, were starting to understand why it was such a powerful weapon. The human fighters had grown from desperate survivors into something much more dangerous. They had become patient hunters who enjoyed making their enemies afraid. Colonel Ryan Phillips ran the resistance from a hidden base in the Australian desert. His plans were different from normal war strategies. He did not try to win with bigger guns or more soldiers. Instead, Phillips focused on breaking the minds of the Vorthak. He used their own fear tactics against them. "They made us watch our cities burn," Phillips told his officers during a meeting. "They wanted us to be scared, but they taught us something useful. Fear is just another weapon, and humans are very good at learning to use new weapons." The human resistance had developed new ways to fight. They would sneak into Vorthak buildings not to steal things or spy, but just to move objects around. Small changes that made the aliens question what they saw. They used alien smell trails to create false danger signals. But the most effective trick was using sound. The Vorthak had better hearing than humans. The resistance learned to use this against them. They made recordings that played just loud enough for aliens to hear, but not loud enough to find. These sounds filled the aliens' sleeping hours with whispered threats and promises of revenge. Captain Sarah Brooks led a special team called the Phantoms. They were experts in terror tactics. Brooks and her 8 team members could sneak into alien bases, kill guards without making noise, and leave behind scenes designed to scare whoever found them later. The secret, Brooks explained to new fighters, is understanding that the Vorthak have never been hunted before. They do not know how to handle being prey. We are going to teach them. In the ruins of Detroit, a mechanic named Tony Martinez had learned to build special traps. These were not meant to kill quickly. They were meant to capture aliens alive and scare them. Martinez would leave Vorthak soldiers tied up in dark rooms with recordings of human voices counting down from 100. By the time rescue teams found them, the aliens were broken inside. The humans had discovered something important. The Vorthak were not just physically strong, they were also mentally weak. They had never faced an enemy that fought back with psychological warfare. They had no training for it, no defense against it. On Vorthak Prime, the alien capital world, the High Command was getting reports that made no sense. Entire groups of soldiers were asking to leave Earth. Some warriors were showing signs of what human doctors would call trauma, but the Vorthak had no word for such a thing. Sub-Commander Kethvar stood before the War Council. His voice shook as he gave his report. "The humans do not fight like prey animals. They fight like us, but worse. They seem to enjoy our fear. They have learned to hunt not just our bodies, but our minds. The War Council listened with growing worry as Kethvar described human tactics that were designed not just to kill but to terrify. Vorthak soldiers were being found in their rooms alive but unable to speak. They stared at walls where humans had carved messages that said, "We are coming for you," and "Sleep well, hunter." Back on Earth, the humans were getting more creative with their psychological attacks. In Los Angeles, a group led by former teacher Janet Kim had learned to use the city's old movie studios. They created fake scenes that looked like horror movies but starring captured Vorthak soldiers. These videos were then broadcast to other alien units. The videos showed Vorthak warriors in situations they had never imagined. Humans stalking them through dark hallways. Humans appearing from shadows. Humans who smiled while they worked. The aliens who watched these videos started having nightmares. Dr. Lisa Wong had made a breakthrough in her lab. She had created a device that could make the Vorthak see things that were not there. Hallucinations of humans hiding in corners. Visions of human faces in reflective surfaces. The device worked by affecting the alien brain chemistry. "We have found their weakness," Wong told Colonel Phillips over a secure communication. "They have ruled by fear for so long that they never learned to control their own fear response. We can overload their systems." The Vorthak soldiers on Earth were changing in ways their commanders did not understand. They moved in large groups now, afraid to be alone. They checked empty rooms multiple times. They installed extra lights everywhere because they were afraid of shadows. The galaxy's apex predators were becoming paranoid and jumpy. Captain Morrison watched all this from his ship in space. The human resistance was not just fighting anymore. They were hunting, and they were good at it. Better than good. They were becoming the thing that the Vorthak feared most, a predator that enjoyed the hunt. "Look what we have become," Morrison said to Lieutenant Rodriguez. 6 months ago, we were just people living normal lives. Now we are the thing that makes monsters wake up screaming. In Chicago, Sergeant Barnes had perfected his team's tactics. They no longer just attacked alien patrols. They followed them. They watched them. They let the aliens know they were being watched. The psychological pressure was enormous. Vorthak soldiers would return to base talking about human eyes watching them from every shadow. The humans had learned something that the Vorthak never expected. They had learned that being scary was not about size or strength. It was about unpredictability. It was about patience. It was about making your enemy afraid of what you might do next. The galaxy was about to learn a new truth. The most dangerous predator was not the one with the biggest claws or the loudest roar. The most dangerous predator was the one that could make its enemies afraid to sleep at night. The most dangerous predator was the one that could turn fear itself into a weapon. And humans, it turned out, were very good at being dangerous. 1 year after the aliens first came to Earth, something impossible happened. The Vorthak Empire, masters of fear and terror for 3,000 years, officially left Earth. They ran away, but the humans were not done with them. Earth's message to the galaxy was just beginning. Admiral Carol Watson stood on the bridge of humanity's first space warship, the Retribution. The ship moved toward Vorthak border worlds. The ship was painted black, not to hide, but to scare. The humans had learned that sometimes being seen was more frightening than being invisible. "Open all communication channels to the Vorthak," Watson ordered. Her voice traveled through space to reach every alien ship, station, and colony in the system. "This is Admiral Watson of the human fleet. You came to our world looking for prey. You found predators instead. You taught us that the galaxy only respects strength and fear. Thank you for the lesson. We learned it very well." The human fleet that left Earth's solar system was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. These were not desperate refugees or angry survivors. These were evolved humans who had learned to make terror into a weapon. Their ships had names like Nightmare, Dread, and Inevitable. Their crews had trained not just in fighting, but in breaking the minds of any species that thought fear belonged only to them. Lieutenant Commander Tim Johnson became humanity's first space diplomat. His message to the Galactic Council was simple. Humanity is now open for peaceful relations. Those who prefer war are welcome to try that option as well. Ask the Vorthak Empire how that worked out for them. The galaxy that had shaken before, Vorthak might for thousands of years now had a new apex predator to worry about. But unlike the Vorthak, humans offered a choice. Join them peacefully or learn what had turned the galaxy's former masters into broken creatures who spoke in whispers about the patient hunters from the third planet. On Earth, the transformation was complete. Cities were being rebuilt, but they were different now, stronger. The humans who survived were different too. They had learned things about themselves that they never knew before. They had learned that when pushed to the edge, humans could become something terrifying. Captain Morrison, now promoted to admiral, stood in the rebuilt command center in New York. Through the window, he could see construction crews working on new buildings. But these were not just any workers. These were the same humans who had spent a year learning to hunt aliens in the dark. They built their new world with the patience and precision of apex predators. "We are not the same species we were a year ago," Morrison said to his staff. "The Vorthak wanted to make us extinct. Instead, they made us evolve." Across the galaxy, other species were hearing the stories. Stories about humans who smiled when they killed. Stories about humans who whispered songs while they hunted. Stories about humans who had turned fear itself into an art form. Most species thought these stories were myths. The Vorthak knew better. In the outer rim of space, Vorthak survivors gathered in small groups. They no longer ruled anything. They hid in the dark corners of the galaxy, sharing tales that made other aliens uncomfortable. They spoke of humans who appeared from nowhere. Humans who knew exactly how to make a warrior's mind break. Humans who could make the strongest fighter cry like a child. "They hunt thoughts," one Vorthak veteran whispered to another in a dark cantina. "They do not just kill the body. They kill the spirit first. They make you afraid to close your eyes." The Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. Representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered to discuss the human problem. But it was not a problem of war or invasion. It was a problem of fear. The galaxy's power structure had changed overnight. Ambassador Johnson sat at the council table, calm and smiling. Around him, alien diplomats tried not to look directly at him. They had all heard the stories. They had all seen the videos of what humans could do when they decided to hunt. "The humans request nothing," Johnson said to the council. "We offer protection to those who want it. We offer trade to those who need it. We offer peace to those who choose it. But we also offer education to those who think they can treat us like the Vorthak did." The council voted unanimously to grant humanity full membership and protected status. It was the fastest vote in galactic history. Meanwhile, human ships spread throughout the galaxy. Not as conquerors, but as teachers. They taught other species that bullies could be stopped. They showed smaller civilizations how to defend themselves. They shared the knowledge that fear worked both ways. Dr. Lisa Wong, now head of Human Psychological Warfare Research, established schools on 20 different worlds. Her students were not just humans. They were members of any species that had been victims of the Vorthak or other galactic bullies. She taught them that the strongest weapon was not a gun or a bomb. It was the ability to make your enemy afraid to fight you. "Fear is universal," Wong told her mixed classes of humans and aliens. "Every creature that thinks can feel fear. The secret is not to remove fear, but to control it, to use it, to make it work for you instead of against you." The galaxy learned a new rule. The most dangerous predator was not the one that roared the loudest or had the biggest claws. The most dangerous predator was the one that could make you afraid to sleep, the one that could turn your own mind against you, the one that could hunt with patience and intelligence. And humans, the galaxy discovered, were very good at being patient, very good at being intelligent, very good at hunting. The Vorthak Empire was finished. Their former territories were now protected by human patrols. Species that had been enslaved for centuries were free. The galaxy's nightmare was over. But the galaxy's former victims had learned something important from their human teachers. They had learned that monsters could be defeated. They had learned that bullies could be stopped. They had learned that even the scariest predator in the galaxy could be taught to feel fear. The age of human expansion had begun. But it was not expansion through conquest. It was expansion through teaching. Humans spread across the stars not as rulers but as protectors. They carried with them the lesson they had learned in their darkest hour. When someone tries to make you afraid, do not run. Do not hide. Do not beg. Instead, learn, adapt, evolve, and then teach them what real fear looks like. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly what the humans wanted.